So as Anne introduced, we'll be talking about the retail sector today, which is obviously in a very kind of challenging position, as I'm sure most of you know. Jules is unfortunately ill, but I've got a really great lineup who have lots of expertise that they're ready to share with you today. So I'll get them down here to come and introduce themselves, and we'll have a short time for Q&As at the end. So please don't be shy. Please ask the questions that you want to know. So yeah, I'll get my panel to come down if that's okay, if you want to come and join, and they can introduce themselves to you this morning.
Hi.
Yeah, so bear with us because we're one person down, so we're going to make it work. But yeah, if you want to start introducing yourself, that would be great.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First of all, of course, also welcome from my side. Welcome to this talk format, and of course, welcome to our NEO House here in Berlin, which is, by the way, also the first NEO House which we built here in Germany in end of 2022. My name is Christian. I'm the head of marketing communications for NEO in Germany. I'm very happy to be here. And I think as a person who comes from automotive, I'm something like, let's say, the pink unicorn in that round here. But don't worry, we are kind of used to it as NEO. We're also having that role probably in the automotive industry as we are doing things differently. Not just in terms of the product, but also in terms of what that panel is all about. How we talk to our users, how we interact with our users, and how we want to engage with our users. I'm pretty sure we get to that point later on. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Hi, what's up everyone? My name is Sydney Emeka Wakama, and I have a brand called Emeka. And yeah, we're doing upcycling pieces. I will explain the story about it a bit later maybe, but yeah, I've been doing this for the last 5 years or so. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to talk about some fashion stuff, about some experiences I've had, and yeah, just connect with you guys, really. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Christian. Hi, everyone. My name is Robin. I'm the founder of Vinokilo. Maybe 2-3 sentences about Vinokilo. Vinokilo is Europe's biggest pop-up event for vintage and second-hand clothes. We, I think over the last years, we sold around 1 million kilos of vintage clothes to people across 15 countries in Europe. We have around 600,000 visitors every year. We create mini festivals, which is sort of like an experience where people can come, give their old clothes, we take it back, and they can buy new clothes, but also buy vintage clothes at a per kilo price. One other sentence I know, we are one of the only B Corp certified vintage brands globally, and happy to be here.
Amazing. So I've got some questions for our panelists, and Sydney, I'm going to start with you. So Emeka suits, as you said, are handmade by upcycling fabrics in Kenya and Ghana. How do you communicate that story and your mission with a European and even a global audience?
Yeah. So, okay, let me explain the story real quick. So,
yes,
basically, all the clothing we are wearing, all right, we wear it, it's nice, 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 and then at some point we're like, okay, what to do with it? When we don't sell them on Vinted or give them to Vinokilo or something, we often throw them into these donation bins, right? That you find on these supermarket parking lots and stuff like that. So what happens with that is they get sorted, blah, 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 blah. The nice stuff stays in Europe. The not so good stuff goes to Africa or Pakistan or stuff like that. But most end up in West Africa, East Africa, all over the place. And they're not being donated, it's being sold. So you have to imagine every day tons of old clothing arrives there, and I've seen it. They are wrapped up in these big bales of, yeah, I don't know how many kilos, but
35.
Thanks, 35 kilos, and it's insane to see. It's a huge machinery of old clothing, and has several dangerous side effects because it interrupts or disrupts the local economy. So people in Kenya, in Ghana, who've had their own textile industry, don't buy locally produced clothing anymore because they get swamped with so much old clothing that they're just like, it's easier and cheaper to buy the old clothing from the global north. Secondly, seamstresses, tailors, etc. lose their jobs because there used to be an industry where they could work in. Now it's just old, fast fashion arriving there and nothing to do for them anymore. So what we are doing is that we are going onto these markets. We are trying to find pieces that we can still make into something else. Oftentimes it's curtains or bigger bed sheets or anything of a bigger fabric that you can still sew into something new. And I have a small team in Kenya, and they go to these markets for me. They send me pictures. Then I say, "Oh, this looks nice. This looks nice." Like my pants, for example, that look nice. And then they make it into new clothing items with tailors there. So we're employing tailors there. I forgot your question now. What was the question?
So, how do you communicate everything that you just told me with your community and your audience?
Yeah, social media. I mean, social media. Reel format has been working really well. We had this one reel where I explained exactly what I just explained to you, but with pictures and with some, percentages of like this much clothing ends up there and there and stuff. So educational content, very easily to share. And then the solution at the end of like, hey, we got a small solution, which is upcycling these things into new stuff. And it has been working really well. It got us a bit of a following and stuff like that. That's how we communicate that.
Great. Yeah. And obviously it's Berlin Fashion Week. I know that you took part in the Black in Fashion sort of pop-up last Friday and Saturday. Yeah. It would be great to hear how that went and also how that initiative kind of came about.
Yeah. So we had a pop-up on Friday and on Saturday called Black in Fashion, where we gathered a bunch of black-owned brands to exhibit their works in our showroom in Bergmann-Kiez. It was really nice. A lot of people came. It was great resonance and stuff like that. And we had a panel talk there as well, where we talked about the challenges of how it is to be black in the fashion industry, what it comes with. And it was really interesting, got some really beautiful insights into that. And maybe to cycle back to like retail and stuff like that, because I was just thinking of something. We were talking also about like how it is for brands like us or like brands like mine, for example, to enter the retail space, which is difficult because there are certain regulations that need to be fulfilled, right? Certain requirements, and for a small brand to come into that, you have to pay a lot of money to just get certain certificates. Then also, again, black-owned brands. Some of us are producing in Africa. To get certificates that are accepted in a European market framework, almost impossible. Really, it's almost impossible. And plus, then also, if you're doing upcycling, like I'm working with Zalando right now, I'm part of this accelerator program, and they want to onboard brands like mine, for example. But then we were entering this challenge of like, okay, but I don't have the crazy certificates and this that proves to you that my brand is sustainable and circular even. But then for them it's like, okay, but then if we don't have the certificate, how can we communicate that to our audience without undermining our other sustainability efforts for other brands? So just to give you an idea of how difficult it is for upcycling or in general circular design ideas to enter a marketplace that is built on growth, really. It's like two different ideas and they don't really fit into each other. I think, Robin, you have maybe a bit more of a balance between these two, but for me at least, it's a challenge where I haven't found a solution yet.
No, I think it's such a new kind of way of doing things that maybe the sort of bigger corporations haven't quite caught up yet. So on to you, Robin. Nice segue. So Vino Kino has a huge online following and you host events all over Europe. But when you founded the business in 2016, did you have any struggles getting people on board with the idea of buying second-hand or pre-loved clothing?
Oh, that's such a long time ago. Actually, we were founded back in 2016. And when we started, vintage is now everywhere present at the moment, and secondhand has become the norm. But back in the days, we started and we had our website crash because people were like messaging us, can we really buy those clothes? Do we need to wash them? So it was like this massive education piece which we had to do. We had huge billboards in front of our events. We had people at the events talking to the people saying, hey, you can actually buy those clothes. And I think we definitely have made an impact in Europe, in Germany, to make, like also vintage an alternative in your day-to-day choices.
And so I think that was really interesting to hear, because now, as you say, vintage is kind of the norm and secondhand is obviously very trendy. So it's great to have that context. At the start of this, you said that Vino Kilo is Europe's biggest vintage kilo sale. How have you achieved this and managed to kind of stay ahead of the competition as vintage has become more and more popular?
Yeah. Let me just say one thing beforehand about vintage and secondhand, just for you guys to see my perspective when it comes to vintage and secondhand. So for me, vintage clothes are everything sort of produced more than 30, 40 years ago, which have a specific, very high quality, right? Secondhand, vintage is also secondhand at the same time, but secondhand, what I see in most platforms nowadays, has very low quality. These are fast fashion brands which are reselling what has been produced. So we really at Vino Kilo have always tried to create an alternative with products which are of quality, which are of materials which are better than what is currently being produced. And to your question, sorry, what was the question?
No, it's fine. The question
He's the guy.
The question was, so how have you managed to stay ahead of the competition?
So I'm not sure if we're always ahead of the competition. And who's the competition here? For me, competition was always fast fashion brands, to be very honest. People who do something, who upcycle clothes, who create new brands which are of impact, who sell secondhand. I always thought these are my pioneers and colleagues, right? And for me, always like, we need to fight fast fashion brands. What have we done? We have always looked at pricing. I know it's ugly, it's not sexy, right? But we always looked at what is H&M, what is Zara selling, and we tried to keep it at a price which is sort of even, right? So we really wanted to be an alternative. We have some amazing vintage clothes which we could sell for way, way more, but we purposefully kept it at a low price in order to really get the masses to come to our events, and that was something, right? And we have a gamified sort of experience. You buy it per kilo at our events, and we have, of course, an experience, right? And I believe that that is also the future. We get asked a lot, hey, why don't you open retail spaces? And I really have to say, like the scarcity of us just coming every time the fashion calendar changes, once in spring, once in autumn, and we bring the vintage clothes according to the trends of the season. We bring them, people bring the clothes they don't want anymore. We take them, they buy some new clothes, and they have this refreshing of the wardrobe. This has really worked for us, and I think is a model also to be shared with other colleagues in the industry.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Slightly changing topic. Christian, we are obviously sitting in Neo House today. Please, can you tell us a bit about how you use these spaces across the world to connect with your community and what the idea behind creating them was?
Yeah. I mean, I hope most of you guys already had the chance to stroll around a bit. It's much more than just down here. And most of the Neo houses worldwide, we have over 140 globally, are more or less the same style, always taking some local aspects in it. But to really understand what we want to achieve and why we built those Neo houses, I think it's important to go a bit back and understand the why behind and look into our strategy. And that's also one important aspect which differentiates us, I think, from most of the other competition out there, is the community approach we are running is not just a pure marketing thing. It's deeply rooted in our strategy. And one element of our strategy is our vision, which means build a user enterprise. I would assume and I would hope that most of the companies out there at least claim that they act user-centric. We're trying to go at least one step further and bring the user, and that's what user enterprise actually means, bring the user into the organization, make him or her a brand owner. And we operationalize that user enterprise thinking with our community approach, which means really getting feedback in, deep interaction and exchange with our users. Of course, you can call it co-creation. That's basically what this is all about. And really to get a vivid, acting community to life, you need to adapt your user journey accordingly, right? There are several specific aspects in our user journey. Two, I think, stand out. The first one is our digital aspect, which is the Neo app. And now comes my mandatory call to action. If you have not done it yet, please download the app now. That's the physical aspect. If you own a car, the digital aspect. If you own a car, then you probably know other car brand apps where you can steer your car. That's one part. The major part of our app is really it's more a social network, right? Where people can get together, can communicate with each other, can communicate with us. I'm there. Even our CEO, William, is there on a daily basis. He's asking questions. He's answering questions. So really, as I said, user enterprise, bring the user in. We want to really interact on a daily basis with our users. That happens in the app, but as well on our physical touchpoint. The physical touchpoint that's what you see here. It's our Neo house. Sorry. The Neo house is the physical touchpoint, as I said, for our community where people can can come here, even though they do not want to buy a car. There is cars here, you can experience them, but it's much more than that, right? There is a co-working space, there's meeting rooms you can book, there's a living room area, there's a cafe. That one here even has a podcast studio in it. So it's actually a space where people can come and have a great time, interact with each other, and really. And I think it was said in the beginning in our short video which we showed. It's really getting inspiration out of that conversations. And that's why I'm very happy that we have, or managed that we have those talks here, because I think that is exactly the purpose of our Neo house, really getting interesting people in here, getting into conversation, getting into the dialogue, and getting inspiration out of it.
Wow, yeah. And then I think just following on from Ashley's great presentation, talking about the kind of state of the market, luxury in particular is experiencing a real slowdown. I don't know if that's something you've had to navigate at Neo, but talking about translating that community into sales, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that for us. Sorry, this is a curveball question because we've lost a guest, so I had to write some last-minute ones.
I really like the question because we always have this balance in our group. Obviously, our main market, our mother market is China. That's where we started already a couple of years ago. That's where we have an entire ecosystem already in place. We are building not just cars, we're building the Neo houses, we're building several services around it. All of our cars coming with swappable batteries, so we're also building actually the power substation on top, so we're building an entire ecosystem around based on the needs and the requirements of our users, as I already described. And I think there is a disbalance right now between different markets. Obviously, I'm looking as the person who's been in charge for marketing in the German market. Obviously, there is a difference between Germany, maybe even the rest of Europe, and China.
Right.
But the good thing is that we have that vision in-house. We have that vision in China, and we can see what we can achieve exactly with that approach. And in the end, of course, with that approach, there comes always also a business impact. What we see in China is we have massive retention rates. We have massive referral rates, right? In German automotive, we have a saying: the first car is sold by sales, the second car is sold by after sales. Our approach is totally different. It's not just after sales, it's the whole community. And our second car is sold by the community. We don't have that yet, fair point. We don't have that yet in Germany, we're just building it. But we can see in China that this approach is really working also on the business side.
Great. And then I guess my last question is to everybody on the panel, talking about following on from the kind of challenges, fashion in particular, the retail space is really, we're experiencing a luxury slowdown, all the kind of points that Ashley pointed out, fatigue, consumerism, capitalism. I'm sure everybody who's here today came to kind of learn something, or maybe they want to start their own brand or their own business. So what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to kind of start that right now?
Oh, wow.
Big question.
Big
yeah.
question. So first of all, of course, incorporate everything which Ashley said beforehand. I mean, I give the advice which is also close to my heart and which I've always sort of followed. And for me, always it was important to do something I love and have a lot of passion for. And I don't think we should sort of run after certain trends, but you should do something holistic, something which really moves people, moves yourselves, and changes the world, and not try to be something you're not, right? Like that's, for me, the most important, and it's a hard way, especially in nowadays times. You need to really burn for it, you really need to give it your everything, and I think that's important that you do then something which makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing more to add to that.
Can't really top that answer, yeah.
Yeah, it's about love in the end, no? It's love. Yeah, I mean, you can do it for trying to build an empire and stuff like that, but there are so many empires already. I would rather build something, a niche somewhere, rather than trying to be the next H&M or something. And who knows where that goes, you know? And yeah.
We had yesterday a bit of a talk over dinner, and it was really, the question is how much scale or do you want to really do? And just for everyone out there, right? Like, you don't have to build new H&M, right? Build something which has an impact, and then find your niche or the growth which fits you, or size which fits you, right? And that already makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I have not built my own business, obviously, but I'm working for the company now since day one, and I'm working for one person who was building that entire branch and entire brand 10 years ago, which is William Lee, a very inspiring person, by the way. If I can refer to my 2.5 years now with NEO, I think several things stand out. And William was deciding to go a totally different way back then, right? Not just building cars and selling them, but building, as I already said, building swappable cars with tons of other things and an entire ecosystem around. And you cannot believe how many people tell you tell you the opposite, right? Even here in Germany, there's lots of people who say that won't work. Swappable batteries, how stupid is that? I think, and that's what you also said, and I think that refers to everyone who really believes in something. You really need to believe in your idea and go your way. Have, I guess so, lots of courage. You need to be brave. I think that is important, because that will probably not end. That people appear and say, okay, that never worked out. Why do you do that? That's one thing. And another thing, with what I actually also learned with NEO, is talk to users. Right? It's all about, in marketing, in my field, it's all about data, right? And data is nice. Data is king, probably, but real conversations are queen. In my understanding, and also William's understanding. That's what whenever he goes out there, whenever he comes to Germany, he wants to talk to real users. He wants to understand their real needs, their real requirements, and get a deeper understanding of the user needs, and do a better job in the end. So really talking to users, I think, is apart from the whole data world, very important in the end.
Great. So I guess on that note, we've got a little bit of time for some questions from the audience. One, okay. So one lucky person. Yeah, any questions for our incredible panel here today? Nobody? Yes, here.
Oh.
Pardon? Oh, repeat the question. Sure. Okay. So, if I understood correctly, what other KPIs are our panel working towards, aside from what they already discussed?
Shall I start?
Go ahead.
I mean, we in the end are also a big organization, even though we are just operating in 6, 7, 8 countries. And I already told that story a couple of times, actually. As every normal organization out there, there's millions of KPIs flying around, right? But if you swipe them all away, there's one which still stands, and where we are looking at on a very deep sessions on a weekly basis, even with our CEO and our co-founder, which is user satisfaction. That's how the whole setup is built, and it's kind of obviously also referring to our strategy in the end. And the good thing is, in comparison to some other automotive brands out there, we have the whole journey with us. We are covering most of the touch points by ourselves, so we can really get feedback in on every single touch point. And that user satisfaction score we are evaluating on every single touch points we get in, and evaluate on a day-to-day, on a weekly basis, even with our top management. I think that is crucial to understand and build based on that direct feedback.
Robin or Sydney, any other points to add?
Yeah, actually, we don't have any sort of anything adds in terms of KPIs. One thing we did measure is, of course, repeat customers or repeat users at our events, and we always connected that to how many lives have you turned, right? Like, because we saw it really as especially at the beginning time, and the question came as we had this massive education piece which we needed to bring to the events. So we really also asked them, how have you ever shopped secondhand? Have you ever shopped vintage? And all of these sort of questions, and we tried to measure and put that in a statistic, but that we have sort of toned down now.
Yeah. It's just me and a couple of interns, so
No time.
KPI sounds so corporate. I'm like, yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening, and give it up for our amazing panel as well.
Pleasure.
Thank you.